I should have known something was wrong when I found my own house key under the doormat. After 12 hours of installing drywall in a suffocating attic, all I wanted was a cold beer and maybe some sympathy from my wife about my aching back. Instead, I got the shock of my life. The lasagna I'd picked up from Tony's Deli sat heavy in my hands as I climbed the stairs to our bedroom. I was planning to surprise Sarah with her favorite dinner, maybe get back some of that spark we'd been missing lately. The house felt different, charged with an energy that made my skin crawl. "Sarah?" I called out, but got no response. That's when I heard it. Low murmuring from our bedroom, followed by a laugh I didn't recognize. A man's laugh. My work boots felt like concrete blocks as I approached our bedroom door. It was slightly ajar, and through the gap I could see clothes scattered across the hardwood floor. My stomach dropped when I spotted Sarah's red dress, the one I'd bought her for our anniversary last month, crumpled next to a pair of expensive men's shoes I'd never seen before. I pushed the door open wider. There they were, tangled up in our Egyptian cotton sheets, the ones we'd saved up for months to buy. Sarah was straddling some guy with perfectly styled hair and a gym membership that clearly cost more than my monthly truck payment. They were so lost in their moment that neither noticed me standing there, holding dinner like some kind of pathetic delivery boy. The guy had his hands all over my wife, and she was making sounds I hadn't heard from her in years. The room reeked of expensive cologne and betrayal. "Well, this is cozy," I said, my voice cutting through their heavy breathing like a chainsaw. Sarah's head whipped around so fast I thought she might get whiplash. Her face went white, then red, then some color that doesn't exist in nature. The guy, who I now recognized as Julian Blackwood, her ex-boyfriend from college, had the audacity to smirk at me. "Dave," Sarah stammered, clutching the sheet to her chest. "I can explain." "Explain what exactly?" I set the lasagna down on our dresser with deliberate calm. "How you're doing yoga in our bed, because that's some pretty advanced positioning right there." Julian stretched like a cat, completely unbothered by my presence. "Hey there, Dave. Sarah's told me so much about you." "I bet she has." I looked around the room, taking in every detail. Sarah's wedding ring sat on the nightstand next to a bottle of wine I'd been saving for our anniversary. "You know, Julian, I always wondered what happened to you after high school. Turns out you became exactly what everyone expected, a piece of garbage." "Now wait just a minute." Julian started to get up, but I held up my hand. "No, you wait. This is still my house, in case you forgot." I turned to Sarah, who was scrambling to cover herself with our comforter. "How long?" "Dave, please, let me get dressed and we can talk about this like adults." "How long?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but they looked more like frustration than remorse. 3 months. 3 months. While I'd been working overtime to save up for the vacation she wanted. While I'd been bringing her coffee in bed every morning. While I'd been planning to surprise her with the kitchen renovation she'd been hinting about. 3 months, I repeated, nodding slowly. In our bed. It just happened, Dave. We ran into each other at that marketing conference and you decided to catch up on old times by screwing him in the bed I sleep in every night. I walked over to my side of the bed, the side that looked completely undisturbed, like I was already erased from this picture. Tell me, Sarah, did you at least wash the sheets between your little meetings, or have I been sleeping in this guy's sweat for 3 months? Julian finally stood up, wrapping the sheet around his waist. Look, man, these things happen. Sarah and I have history. History? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about history? I have 6 years of marriage with this woman, 6 years of building a life together. What do you have? A few months of sneaking around like teenagers? We're in love, Sarah said quietly. Those 4 words hit me harder than any punch I'd ever taken. Not because I still loved her. That feeling was draining out of me like water from a broken pipe. But because of how easily she said it. Like our entire marriage was just a placeholder until something better came along. In love, I repeated. Well, congratulations. I'm sure you'll be very happy together. I walked over to our closet and pulled out a suitcase, the one we'd used for our honeymoon in Cabo. Sarah watched me with growing panic as I started throwing Julian's clothes into it. What are you doing? She asked. Helping your boyfriend pack. See, this is my house. My name's on the deed, and I'm pretty sure adultery voids any claim you might have had to it. I tossed Julian's expensive watch into the suitcase with more force than necessary. So you've got about 10 minutes to get your things and get out. You can't just kick us out, Sarah protested. Actually, I can, and I am. I looked at Julian, who was fumbling to put on his pants. You might want to hurry up there, Romeo. I've got a truck in the driveway, and I'm feeling pretty motivated to use it. Julian's face went pale. You're threatening me? Not threatening, just stating facts. I'm a contractor, Julian. I work with my hands for a living. I'm tired, I'm angry, and I just caught my wife cheating on me with some trust fund baby who probably hasn't done an honest day's work in his life. I stepped closer to him, and he actually backed up. So yeah, I'd say you're in a pretty precarious position right now. Sarah jumped out of bed, still wrapped in the sheet. Dave, stop it! You're scaring him! Good. He should be scared. I grabbed the rest of Julian's clothes and shoes. Because if I ever see him in my house again, or anywhere near my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, I'm going to introduce him to some tools he's probably never seen before. Julian snatched his clothes from me and started getting dressed as fast as possible. Sarah was crying now, real tears this time, but I felt nothing. The man who would have comforted her, who would have done anything to make her happy, had died the moment I walked into that bedroom. This isn't over, Dave, Julian said as he headed for the door. You're right. It's not. I followed them downstairs, watching as they gathered Sarah's things. Because I'm filing for divorce tomorrow morning, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly why. Sarah turned to face me at the front door, mascara running down her cheeks. Dave, please, we can work this out. It was a mistake. The only mistake was me thinking you were worth 6 years of my life. I opened the door and gestured for them to leave. But don't worry, I won't make that mistake again. As they walked toward Julian's silver BMW, I noticed Mrs. Drummond from next door peeking through her curtains. Perfect. By tomorrow morning, the whole neighborhood would know what happened. Sarah always cared so much about what people thought. Julian was fumbling with his keys, clearly rattled. I walked out to my truck, started it up, and put it in reverse. As I backed out of the driveway, I made sure to swing wide, real wide. The satisfying crunch of Julian's rear bumper folding like an accordion was the first thing that had made me smile all day. Julian jumped out of his car, screaming, "You psycho! You hit my car!" I rolled down my window and grinned at him. Oops, insurance should cover that. Oh, wait, this was probably intentional, wasn't it? Better add it to your lawsuit, Romeo. Sarah was pulling on Julian's arm, trying to get him back in the car. Smart woman. Well, smart enough to know when to run anyway. As they drove away, Julian's BMW making a horrible scraping noise, I stood in my driveway and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Free. Mrs. Drummond was still watching from her window. I waved at her and headed back inside to figure out what the hell I was going to do next. The next morning hit me like a sledgehammer to the skull. For about 30 seconds after waking up, I forgot what had happened. Then reality came flooding back, along with the worst hangover I'd had since college. I'd spent the night systematically drinking every beer in the house while making a list of everything I needed to do. Lawyer, bank, change the locks, and figure out how to untangle 6 years of shared everything. The empty bottles on my kitchen table told the story of a man who'd run out of better coping mechanisms around bottle number 8. My phone had been buzzing all night. 17 missed calls from Sarah, 43 text messages ranging from apologetic to angry to desperate, and a voicemail from Julian that I deleted without listening to. I wasn't ready for round 2 of that conversation. The first call I made was to Tom Brennan, a lawyer I'd done some work for last year. He specialized in divorce cases, and from what I'd seen of his office renovation, he was good at his job. "Dave, good to hear from you," Tom said when his secretary put me through. "How's the construction business?" "Complicated. That's actually why I'm calling. I need a divorce lawyer." There was a pause. "I'm sorry to hear that. What's the situation?" I gave him the short version. Caught wife cheating, threw them both out, need to protect my assets and get this over with as quickly as possible. Tom listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. "Adultery makes things simpler in terms of fault," he said when I finished. "Do you have any evidence? Besides catching them in my bed? I've got 3 months of suspicious behavior, unexplained absences, and a neighbor who saw everything last night. Plus, I'm pretty sure there are more witnesses if we need them." "Good. What about assets?" "House is in my name only, bought it before we got married. Joint checking account, but most of our savings is in an account she doesn't have access to. She's got her own car, her own career. Shouldn't be too messy." "Famous last words," Tom chuckled. "But you're right. It sounds straightforward. Can you come in this afternoon? I'll have my assistant draw up the initial paperwork." After hanging up with Tom, I called my sister Erin. She lived 3 hours away in Pittsburgh, but she'd always been my go-to person for crisis management. She also happened to hate Sarah with the passion of 1,000 suns, which made her the perfect person to vent to. "It's about damn time," was the first thing she said after I told her what happened. "Thanks for the sympathy, sis." "Oh, please. I've been waiting for this call for 2 years. That woman has been walking all over you since the day you met her, and you've been too blind to see it." Erin had never been subtle about her feelings toward Sarah. At family gatherings, she'd make pointed comments about Sarah's spending habits, her tendency to interrupt people, and her general attitude toward anyone she considered beneath her station. I'd always defended Sarah, but looking back, maybe Erin had been seeing things I'd missed. "So what's the plan?" Erin asked. "Divorce. As fast and clean as possible. I just want her out of my life." Wrong answer. The plan should be to make her pay for what she did to you. "I'm not looking for revenge, Erin. I just want to move on." "Dave, listen to me. This woman cheated on you for 3 months. 3 months of lying to your face every single day. She made you look like a fool, and if you just roll over and let her walk away without consequences, she's going to do the same thing to the next guy." I was about to argue when my phone buzzed with another text from Sarah. "Dave, please call me. We need to talk about this like adults. What happened doesn't have to ruin everything we built together." I read the message to Erin, who snorted in disgust. "Like adults? She's been acting like a horny teenager for 3 months, and now she wants to be an adult? Delete her number." "I can't delete her number. We're married." "Not for long. And trust me, the sooner you cut off all contact, the better. She's going to try to manipulate you into feeling sorry for her. Don't fall for it." After we hung up, I spent the rest of the morning changing the locks and boxing up Sarah's things. It was therapeutic in a weird way, handling all the little reminders of our life together. Her collection of scented candles that always gave me headaches. The throw pillows she insisted we needed but that served no actual function. The stack of magazines about celebrity gossip and home decorating that I'd been tripping over for years. I was in the middle of packing her jewelry when I found something that made my blood boil. A burner phone hidden in the back of her underwear drawer. The phone had dozens of messages between Sarah and Julian going back 4 months, not 3 like she'd told me. But it wasn't just Julian. There were conversations with at least 3 other guys, including her personal trainer and some guy named Marcus from her office. My wife hadn't just been cheating on me. She'd been running a full-scale operation. The messages were explicit, detailed, and showed a side of Sarah I'd never seen. She talked about me like I was some kind of burden she had to endure, called me boring, predictable, and, this one really stung, sexually disappointing. One message to Julian from 2 weeks ago read, "Dave's working late again. Come over at 8 and bring that thing you did last time." Another one to her trainer. My husband thinks I'm at book club tonight. Want to show me some new positions? I sat on our bed, my bed, reading through months of betrayal, feeling like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until it popped. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This was a pattern of deliberate deception. The worst part was reading how they all laughed about me. Julian had sent a picture of my truck with the caption, "Guess who's still driving this piece of junk?" Sarah had responded with crying, laughing emojis, and "He's so proud of that stupid truck, thinks it makes him look masculine." That truck had been my grandfather's. I'd restored it myself, spending weekends in the garage learning about engines and bodywork. It wasn't just transportation, it was a connection to family history, and she'd turned it into a joke. I was still staring at the phone when someone knocked on my front door. Through the window, I could see Julian's BMW, now sporting a nice dent in the rear bumper, parked in my driveway. He'd brought backup, 2 guys in expensive suits who looked like they'd never done manual labor in their lives. I opened the door with the burner phone still in my hand. "We need to talk," Julian said, trying to sound authoritative. It didn't work. He still looked like a scared kid playing dress-up. "About what? I thought we covered everything last night." "About the damage to my car, and about how you're going to make this right." I looked at his 2 friends, who were trying to look intimidating, but mostly just looked uncomfortable. "And you brought your book club with you because you're clearly unstable," Julian said. "Sarah told me about your anger issues." "My anger issues?" I held up the burner phone. "Found this in my wife's underwear drawer. Want to guess what's on it?" Julian's face went pale. "That's private property. It was in my house. My house that you've been sneaking into for 4 months to screw my wife." I scrolled through the messages, reading them out loud. "Oh, here's a good one. Dave's so clueless. I could probably bring you over for dinner and he wouldn't notice we were flirting." One of Julian's friends, a tall guy with perfectly styled hair, stepped forward. "Look, man, we get that you're upset, but—" "Upset?" I laughed, but it came out harsh and bitter. "I'm not upset, I'm educated. There's a difference." "What do you want?" Julian asked. "I want you to get off my property, and I want you to stay away from my wife until the divorce is final. After that, you can have her. But if I see you around here again, we're going to have a much longer conversation." "You can't threaten me," Julian said, but his voice cracked a little. "I'm not threatening you. I'm promising you." I stepped closer, and all 3 of them backed up. "See, Julian, you made a mistake. You thought I was just some dumb construction worker who'd roll over and take this. But here's the thing about construction workers. We know how to solve problems, and right now, you're my biggest problem." Julian's other friend, a shorter guy with nervous eyes, tugged on his arm. "Come on, man. Let's just go." "This isn't over," Julian said as they retreated to his car. "You're absolutely right," I called after him. "It's just getting started." After they left, I called Erin back and told her about the burner phone. 4 months, she said. "And multiple guys? Dave, this isn't just cheating. This is a complete betrayal of everything marriage is supposed to mean." "I know. So what are you going to do about it?" I looked around my empty house, thinking about all the plans Sarah and I had made. The kitchen renovation, the vacation to Europe, maybe starting a family in a few years. All of it built on lies. "I'm going to make sure she regrets it," I said finally. "Now you're talking. What do you need?" "Information, and maybe some help from someone who knows how to play dirty." Erin was quiet for a moment. "I might know someone. Remember my friend Mara from college? The one who runs that social media consulting business?" I remembered Mara, blonde, sharp-tongued, and smart enough to make people think she was just a pretty face until it was too late. She'd always been friendly to me at Erin's parties, but I'd gotten the impression she didn't like Sarah much. "What about her?" "She specializes in reputation management, both building them up and tearing them down. If anyone knows how to make Sarah's life complicated, it's Mara. I'm not looking to destroy her career or anything crazy like that. Of course not. But maybe it's time Sarah learned what it feels like to be humiliated in front of everyone she cares about. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen and started planning. Sarah cared about 3 things more than anything else: her image, her career, and what people thought of her. She'd built her whole identity around being the perfect wife with the perfect life. Time to show everyone how perfect she really was. Mara arrived the next evening with a bottle of wine and a laptop bag that looked like it could hack into the Pentagon. She hadn't changed much since college. Still blonde, still sharp-eyed, still carrying herself like she owned whatever room she walked into. "Aaron told me about your situation," she said, settling into my kitchen chair like she belonged there. "I'm sorry this happened to you, but I'm not sorry you finally found out what kind of person Sarah really is. You never liked her. I tried to like her, for your sake, but Sarah's always been—" Mara paused, choosing her words carefully. "She's always been the kind of person who sees other people as accessories to her life story. You were the stable husband. Julian's the exciting affair. Her trainer's the fun distraction. None of you are real people to her." She opened her laptop and pulled up what looked like a social media monitoring dashboard. "The good news is that people like Sarah are predictable. They can't help but broadcast their lives online. And when they fall hard. What are you thinking?" "Well, first we need to know what we're working with. Sarah's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of it. Plus Julian's accounts and anyone else in their circle." Her fingers flew over the keyboard. "The key is to let them destroy themselves. We just need to give them the right push at the right time." Within an hour, Mara had pulled up a comprehensive picture of Sarah's online life. Her Instagram was exactly what I'd expected. Carefully curated photos of our house, her morning lattes, inspirational quotes about living your best life. Her Facebook was more of the same, plus status updates about work achievements and girls' nights out. "She's been posting about you," Mara said, scrolling through Sarah's recent updates. "Look at this one from last week." The post was a photo of Sarah and me at dinner, taken a few weeks ago. She'd tagged it with, "Date night with my amazing husband. So grateful for this man who works so hard to give us a beautiful life. #blessed, #marriage goals, #lucky girl." I stared at the screen, remembering that night. I'd taken her to that new Italian place she'd wanted to try. She'd seemed distracted the whole time, constantly checking her phone. Now I knew why. She'd probably been texting Julian or one of her other guys. 43 likes and 12 comments, Mara noted, all from people telling her how lucky she is and what a great couple you make. This is going to make the fallout so much worse for her. "What fallout?" Mara smiled, and it wasn't entirely pleasant. "The fallout when everyone finds out she's been cheating on her amazing husband for months. Sarah's built her entire online persona around being the perfect wife. When that image crumbles, it's going to take everything else down with it." She pulled up Julian's accounts next. His Instagram was a predictable mix of gym selfies, expensive car photos, and pictures from high-end restaurants. But buried in the comments were breadcrumbs of his relationship with Sarah. "Look at this," Mara said, pointing to a photo Julian had posted 3 weeks ago. It was a picture of an expensive bottle of wine with the caption, "Celebrating good news with someone special." In the comments, someone named Brad had written, "Finally making your move on the married chick." Julian had responded with a winking emoji, and "Some things are worth waiting for." "He's been bragging about it," I said, feeling my anger spike again. "Of course he has. Guys like Julian can't help themselves. They need everyone to know they're winning." Mara scrolled through more posts. "And look at this. He's been posting photos from restaurants you and Sarah went to. Same places, sometimes just days apart." She was right. There was a photo of Julian at Marcello's, the Italian place Sarah and I had gone for our anniversary. Another one at the wine bar where we'd had our first date. He'd been following our relationship like some kind of twisted scavenger hunt. "This is actually perfect," Mara said. He's given us a timeline of the affair without even realizing it. All we need to do is put the pieces together in the right way. What do you mean? Social media is all about storytelling. Right now, Sarah's telling the story of a happy marriage, and Julian's telling the story of a successful single guy. But we can tell a different story using their own posts. The story of a cheating wife and her arrogant boyfriend who were stupid enough to document everything. Mara spent the next 2 hours building what she called a narrative map. She cross-referenced Sarah's posts about working late or girls' nights out with Julian's posts from the same time frames. The pattern was damning. Every time Sarah had posted about book club, Julian had posted from a bar near our house. When Sarah had claimed to be at a work conference, Julian had been at the same hotel. When Sarah had told me she was having a spa day with her girlfriends, Julian had posted a photo of room service for 2. They weren't even trying to hide it, Mara said. They just assumed no one would connect the dots. So, what's the plan? We wait. Sarah's going to try to control the narrative about your divorce. She'll probably post something about growing apart or needing space or some other bullshit that makes her look like the victim. When she does, we hit her with the truth. And Julian? Mara's smile turned predatory. Julian's going to help us destroy himself. Guys like him can't resist gloating. Give it a few days and he'll post something about his new relationship. When he does, we'll be ready. The next morning, I got a call from my lawyer with an update on the divorce proceedings. Sarah had hired her own attorney, apparently some hotshot from downtown who specialized in high-net-worth divorces. She's claiming irreconcilable differences, Tom told me. No mention of adultery. Her lawyer's trying to frame this as a mutual decision. Like hell it was mutual. I know, but she's also asking for spousal support and half the value of the house. The house that's in my name only? The house I bought before we were married? Doesn't matter. Pennsylvania is an equitable distribution state. She can claim she contributed to its value through improvements and maintenance. I thought about all the weekends I'd spent renovating that house while Sarah went shopping or met friends for brunch. The new bathroom I'd installed myself, the kitchen cabinets I'd built by hand, the deck I'd constructed while she complained about the noise. What about the affair? Doesn't that count for anything? It helps, especially if we can prove it. Do you have any evidence beyond catching them in bed? I told him about the burner phone and the messages I'd found. Tom was quiet for a long moment. That's good, very good. But we need to be careful about how we present it. Her lawyer's going to argue that you violated her privacy by going through her phone. It was in my house. I know. And legally, you're probably in the clear, but we need to make sure we have everything documented properly. Can you bring the phone to my office this afternoon? After hanging up with Tom, I called Mara with an update. She listened without interrupting, then asked, "What's Sarah saying publicly about the divorce?" Nothing yet, as far as I know. She will, probably today or tomorrow. Women like Sarah can't stand having people wonder what happened. She'll want to get her version out first. Mara was right. That afternoon, Sarah posted a long, carefully worded statement on Facebook. It's with a heavy heart that I'm sharing that Dave and I have decided to end our marriage. This wasn't an easy decision, and it's not what either of us wanted when we said I do 6 years ago. Sometimes people grow in different directions, and sometimes love isn't enough to bridge those differences. We're committed to handling this transition with respect and dignity, and I ask for privacy during this difficult time. Dave will always hold a special place in my heart, and I wish him nothing but happiness in his future. #new chapter, #growth, #moving forward. The post had 26 comments within an hour, all variations of, "I'm so sorry to hear this," and "You're so strong," and "His loss." Sarah was responding to each one with gracious thank yous and heart emojis. I called Mara immediately. "Did you see it?" "I'm looking at it now," she said. "This is perfect. She's positioning herself as the mature, dignified wife who's handling an amicable divorce. When the truth comes out, the contrast is going to be devastating. When are we going to tell the truth? Soon. But first, we need Julian to make his move, and we need a few more pieces in place. What kind of pieces? The kind that make sure Sarah's humiliation is complete and public. Trust me, Dave. When we're done, everyone she knows is going to see exactly what kind of person she really is. That evening, I drove to Lenny's boxing gym to work off some of my frustration. Lenny had been my friend since high school, and his gym was where I went when I needed to hit something without getting arrested. "Heard about you and Sarah," Lenny said as I wrapped my hands. "Sorry, man." "Don't be. Best thing that ever happened to me." Lenny raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that? Because you look like you want to punch a hole through that heavy bag." "Maybe I do." I spent 45 minutes taking out my anger on the bag, working up a sweat that felt cleaner than anything I'd experienced in months. Lenny watched from across the gym, occasionally shouting corrections to my form. I was cooling down when Julian walked in. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered. Julian had apparently decided he needed to start working out more because he was wearing brand new gym clothes and carrying a water bottle that still had the price tag on it. He looked around the gym like he was touring a zoo, taking in the cracked mirrors and worn equipment with obvious disdain. "Well, well," he said when he spotted me. "Fancy meeting you here." "This is my gym, Julian. I've been coming here for 10 years. "Really? I had no idea." His smile was all teeth and no warmth. "Sarah mentioned you liked to box. Thought I might try it out. You know, see what all the fuss is about." Lenny appeared at my shoulder like a guardian angel. "This is a members-only gym," he told Julian. "You need a referral to join." "I'm sure we can work something out," Julian said, pulling out his wallet. "What's the membership fee?" "It's not about money," Lenny said. "It's about fit, and you don't fit." Julian's smile faltered. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. This gym is for serious people, people who respect the sport and respect each other. You don't qualify." "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," I said, stepping closer to Julian. "You're not welcome here, just like you weren't welcome in my house. But that didn't stop you, did it?" Julian's face flushed red. "I don't have to take this from either of you." "You're right," Lenny said. "You can leave." Julian looked around the gym, apparently hoping for support from the other fighters. Instead, he found a room full of guys who'd heard enough of our conversation to know exactly who he was and what he'd done. Their expressions ranged from disgusted to hostile. "This isn't over," Julian said, backing toward the door. "Keep telling yourself that," I called after him. "Maybe eventually you'll believe it." After Julian left, Lenny clapped me on the shoulder. "Friend of yours?" "Sarah's boyfriend, the one she was cheating with." "Ah." Lenny nodded like that explained everything. "Want me to make sure he doesn't come back?" "Nah, something tells me he won't be a problem much longer." I was right. The next morning, Julian posted a photo on Instagram that changed everything. It was a picture of him and Sarah at some upscale restaurant, both dressed up and smiling at the camera. The caption read, "Sometimes the best things in life are worth waiting for. Finally free to be with the woman I love. Hashtag new beginnings. Hashtag true love. Hashtag worth it." Sarah had commented with 3 heart emojis. I screenshot the post and sent it to Mara with a message. "Game time?" Her response came back immediately. Game time. Mara's plan was elegant in its simplicity. We weren't going to attack Sarah and Julian directly. We were going to let their own words destroy them. She'd spent the weekend creating what she called a truth timeline, using screenshots of Sarah's social media posts, Julian's Instagram photos, and the messages from the burner phone. She'd built an interactive website that told the real story of their affair. "Look at this," Mara said, showing me the finished product on her laptop. "Here's Sarah's post from 2 months ago about date night with her amazing husband. And here's Julian's photo from the same night, same restaurant, posted 2 hours later. And here's the text message she sent him that afternoon. 'Can't wait to see you tonight?' Told Dave I'm working late. The website laid out months of parallel deception. Every lie Sarah had told was matched with evidence of where she'd really been. Every social media post about her happy marriage was contrasted with explicit messages to her various boyfriends. This is incredible, I said. But how are we going to get people to see it? That's the beauty of social media, Mara said. We don't need to force people to look. We just need to give them a reason to want to look. She pulled up Julian's latest post, the one where he'd gone public with their relationship. It had 67 likes and 23 comments, mostly from his friends congratulating him on finally landing her. Julian's friends don't know Sarah's married, Mara noted. Look at these comments. They think she was single this whole time. She was right. The comments were full of guys saying things like, "About time you made your move," and "She's way out of your league, but good for you." A few of Sarah's friends had liked the post, but none had commented, probably because they knew the truth about her marriage. So what's the plan? Mara smiled. We're going to educate Julian's friends about exactly who Sarah is, and we're going to do it in the most public way possible. The plan required precise timing. Mara had created several fake social media accounts, not to harass anyone, but to ensure the information got to the right people at the right time. She'd also reached out to a few gossip bloggers who specialized in exposing cheating scandals. The key is to make it look like the truth is coming out naturally, she explained, like people are just connecting the dots on their own. On Monday morning, the first domino fell. Someone, I suspected it was Mara, though she denied it, left a comment on Julian's Instagram post. Wait, isn't she married? I could swear I saw wedding photos of her and some other guy. Within an hour, Julian's friends were asking questions. Someone else commented, I'm confused. Her Facebook says she's married to a guy named Dave. Julian deleted both comments, but it was too late. People had started looking at Sarah's social media accounts, and the inconsistencies were impossible to ignore. By Tuesday afternoon, Sarah's carefully crafted image was crumbling. Someone had found our wedding photos on her Facebook page and shared them with Julian's friends. The timeline website Mara had created was being passed around like wildfire, and people were starting to put the pieces together. Sarah tried to do damage control, posting a statement about how she and I had been separated for months and that she hadn't done anything wrong. But the evidence was overwhelming. The text messages, the timeline, the photos, everything painted a picture of a woman who'd been living a double life. Julian's response was even worse. Instead of apologizing or trying to explain, he doubled down, posting a long rant about how love doesn't follow rules and how he and Sarah were meant to be together. He even had the audacity to say that I was obviously not meeting her needs and that he was giving her what she deserved. That post was the final straw. Sarah's friends, who had been mostly quiet during the initial fallout, turned on both of them. The comments section became a battlefield, with people calling them selfish, disgusting, and worse. But the real damage was happening offline. Sarah's boss at the marketing agency called her in for a meeting about maintaining professional standards. Julian's real estate clients started canceling contracts, apparently uncomfortable doing business with someone who'd been bragging about breaking up a marriage. I was getting regular updates from Mara, who was monitoring the situation like a general watching a battle unfold. Sarah's deleted her Instagram, she told me Wednesday evening, and Julian's made his account private. But it's too late. Everything's been screenshotted and shared. How bad is it? Bad. Sarah's lost about half her Facebook friends in the last 2 days. Julian's getting roasted in the comments of every post he's ever made, and the story's starting to spread beyond their immediate circles. She was right. By Thursday, the story had been picked up by a local gossip blog with the headline, Marketing Executive Caught in Elaborate Cheating Scandal. The post included photos, screenshots, and a detailed timeline of the affair. Sarah called me that night for the first time since I'd thrown her out of the house. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Dave, please, she said before I could even say hello. You have to make this stop. Make what stop? You know what? The website, the posts, the harassment. People are calling me at work. My mother's getting messages from strangers. This has gone too far. I didn't do anything, Sarah. I'm not the one who posted photos of our affair online. I'm not the one who bragged about breaking up a marriage. You and Julian did this to yourselves. I know you're behind this somehow. The timing is too convenient. You're giving me way too much credit. I'm just a dumb construction worker, remember? How would I know how to orchestrate something like this? Sarah was crying now, real tears this time. Dave, I'm sorry. I know what I did was wrong, but this punishment doesn't fit the crime. You're destroying my life. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just not protecting you anymore. There's a difference. Please, I'll do anything. I'll call off the divorce lawyers. I'll give up any claim to the house. Just make this stop. Even if I could make it stop, which I can't, why would I? You made your choice, Sarah. You chose Julian over me. You chose to lie to me for months. You chose to humiliate me in my own bed. Now you get to live with the consequences. But Julian's... She stopped herself. Julian's what? Nothing. Never mind. No, finish that sentence. Julian's what? There was a long pause. He's not handling this well. He's blaming me for everything. Says I should have divorced you before we started seeing each other. Says I've ruined his reputation. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. So the guy you threw away your marriage for is throwing you under the bus now that things got complicated? I'm shocked. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. Julian was happy to sneak around and screw another man's wife, but he doesn't want to face the consequences when people find out what kind of person he is. Dave, please. No, Sarah. You made your bed. Now you get to lie in it. Alone, apparently, since Julian's already jumping ship. I hung up and immediately called Mara to fill her in on the conversation. Julian's abandoning her? Mara sounded delighted. That's even better than I hoped. Nothing destroys a cheater's narrative like getting dumped by the person they cheated with. Think it's really over between them? Oh, it's over. Guys like Julian are only interested in the thrill of the chase and the ego boost of stealing someone else's wife. When it stops being fun and starts being work, they bail. Mara was right again. The next morning, Julian posted a statement on social media, distancing himself from Sarah and the misunderstanding about their relationship. He claimed they'd only been friends and that Sarah had misrepresented her marital status to him. It was a coward's move, and everyone saw right through it. But it was also the final nail in Sarah's coffin. She'd lost her marriage, her reputation, and now the man she'd thrown everything away for was publicly humiliating her. The weekend brought the ultimate irony. Sarah's friend posted screenshots of text messages where Sarah was begging Julian to take her back, promising to make this right and fix everything. Julian had responded by telling her to lose his number and stop embarrassing herself. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt like justice had been served. Instead, I just felt empty. The woman I'd loved for 6 years had destroyed herself so completely that there was nothing left to be angry at. On Sunday evening, I was sitting on my deck with a beer, watching the sunset and thinking about what came next, when my phone rang. It was Erin. "Have you seen Sarah's latest post?" she asked. "No. I stopped following the drama yesterday. It was getting depressing." "You need to see this one." I pulled up Sarah's Facebook page and stared at the screen longer than I meant to, because the sentence she'd posted looked like the kind of thing people write when they finally run out of lies that still feel comfortable. Sometimes the only way to start over is to admit you've lost everything that mattered. No flourish, no selfie, no carefully filtered photo of sunshine to prove she was thriving. Just words, sitting there alone like a note left on an empty table. What struck me most wasn't the post itself. It was the silence around it. No likes, no comments, no heart emojis, Not even the usual sympathetic friends dropping vague encouragement like, "Stay strong," or "You got this." It was as if the world had collectively decided it was done participating in her narrative. The crowd that had once fed her attention had moved on, and what was left was the one thing she couldn't curate: consequence. Erin leaned back in the deck chair across from me, boots propped on the railing like she owned the night. She'd been in my life long enough to know when I was spiraling, and she'd gotten good at interrupting that spiral with blunt questions. "Think she's learned her lesson?" she asked. I kept my eyes on the screen for another second, then locked my phone and set it face down on the table. "I think she's learned that actions have consequences," I said. "Whether that's the same thing, I don't know." Erin's mouth twisted into a half smile. "That's the most reasonable answer you've given all month." I snorted softly, then looked out across my backyard. The grass still held a faint sheen from the storm earlier, and the air was cool enough to make the deck boards feel clean under my bare feet. The porch light cast a warm circle around us, and beyond it, the yard faded into shadow, quiet and still. It had been months since I'd sat out here without feeling like the house was holding its breath. Months since I'd felt like I could relax without waiting for the next argument, the next accusation, the next cold silence. "So what now?" Erin asked. That question used to scare me, not because I didn't have ideas, but because now had always been negotiated with someone else's moods. Sarah's anxiety, Sarah's pride, Sarah's shame. Everything had been filtered through her need to look a certain way to the world, like our marriage wasn't a partnership, but a performance she couldn't afford to lose control of. I spread my hands slightly, palms up, as if I was presenting the evidence of a new reality. "Now I move on," I said. "The divorce will be final in a few weeks. Sarah's out of my life for good, and I get to figure out who I am when I'm not married to someone who's ashamed of me." Erin's eyes softened just a little at that, like she'd been waiting for me to say it in plain language. "You really think she was ashamed of you?" she asked, not challenging, just confirming. I stared at the dark outline of my fence, at the faint movement of leaves in the breeze, and I felt the answer settle in my chest with a quiet certainty. "Yeah," I said, not in the obvious way, not like she'd say it out loud, but in the way she'd correct me in front of people, in the way she'd laugh along when someone made a joke at my expense, in the way she'd treat my kindness like it was weakness and my stability like it was boring. She wanted the comfort I provided, but she didn't want to be seen needing it. Erin let out a low whistle. "That's brutal." "It's honest," I replied, and I surprised myself with how calm I sounded. I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't grinding my teeth. I wasn't trying to convince Erin of anything. I was just describing what I'd finally admitted to myself. Erin picked up her drink and took a slow sip, watching me the way people watch someone who's just stepped out of a burning building and is still checking for smoke on their clothes. "Any regrets?" she asked. The question landed heavier than she probably intended, because regret is a tricky thing. It's not just about what you wish you'd done. It's about what you wish you'd been willing to see. And for a long time, I hadn't been willing to see the truth, because the truth would have required action, and action would have required change. I didn't answer right away. I leaned back, listening to the quiet of the neighborhood, the distant sound of a car passing, the soft creak of the deck chair under my weight. I thought about all the little moments that had built to this, not one dramatic betrayal, but 1,000 subtle dismissals. The way Sarah would roll her eyes when I talked about my work, the way she'd get irritated when I didn't want to spend money on something flashy, the way she'd flirt with admiration from strangers like it was oxygen, then come home and act like my love was a given, like it didn't need tending. "Yeah," I said finally, "I regret not seeing who she really was sooner." Erin nodded slowly, like that made sense. "But I don't regret how this ended," I continued, and the words felt sharp but true. "She got exactly what she deserved." Erin raised an eyebrow. That's colder than I expected. It's not cold, I said, and I could hear the steel in my own voice, the steel that had taken too long to form. It's proportional. For months, she treated me like an obstacle, like a disposable part of her life. She lied. She manipulated. She tried to rewrite me into a villain to justify her own choices. And when it all fell apart, she didn't fall apart because she missed me. She fell apart because she lost the story she was selling. Erin rested her elbows on her knees, leaning forward. You think that post is real? She asked. Or just another story? I thought about the empty reaction count, the lack of comments, the stark loneliness of the sentence. I think it's real in the way most people's rock-bottom posts are real, I said. Not because she suddenly grew a conscience, but because she ran out of exits. Reality cornered her. Erin sat back again, looking up at the sky. The clouds had thinned enough to reveal a few stars, faint but steady. So, she said, voice lighter now, you're free. What does that look like? I smiled, small and genuine. It looks like this, I said, gesturing to the deck, the quiet house behind me, the yard that finally felt peaceful. It looks like waking up and not checking my phone for drama. It looks like making decisions without negotiating them with someone else's insecurity. It looks like remembering what I actually enjoy, not what I tolerated. Erin laughed softly. Like what? Don't tell me you're about to become a hiking guy. Don't curse me like that, I said, and she laughed harder, and for a moment the night felt almost normal. Then the laughter faded, and I looked toward the dark windows of my house. Inside, everything was quiet. No tension humming in the walls. No argument waiting in the kitchen. No cold silence used as punishment. Just my space, my life, my choices. I'm not naive, I said quietly. I know moving on isn't a switch you flip. There'll be days where I miss the good parts. There'll be mornings where the loneliness hits hard. There'll be moments where I wonder if I could have done something differently. Erin nodded, listening. But for the first time, I continued, I'm not afraid of my own future. I'm curious about it. That's new for me. Erin's smile softened again. That's a good place to be. I looked down at my phone, still face down on the table. Sarah's sentence trapped under the glass like a specimen. Then I pushed the phone away, farther than I needed to, because I didn't want her words sitting between me and the night anymore. She can start over if she wants, I said. That's her business, but she doesn't get to start over with me. Erin lifted her drink in a small toast. To moving on, she said. I clinked my glass against hers and felt the simple, quiet satisfaction of a decision holding firm. The divorce would be final soon. Sarah would become a closed chapter, and whatever came next, peace, pain, growth, awkward first dates, quiet weekends, it would be mine. For the first time in months, that felt like freedom. 3 weeks later, the divorce was finalized. Sarah had dropped all her demands for spousal support and the house, settling for just her personal belongings and her car. Her lawyer had advised her that fighting would only prolong the public humiliation and cost more money than she could possibly win. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The call came from Mara on a Thursday evening. I was in my garage, working on restoring an old motorcycle I'd bought, when my phone rang. You need to see something, she said without preamble. What now? Sarah's trying to make a comeback. She's hired a reputation management company, not mine, obviously, and they're pushing a new narrative. I wiped my hands on a rag and headed inside to my computer. What kind of narrative? The abusive husband narrative. She's claiming you were controlling and emotionally abusive, and that her affair was her way of escaping a toxic marriage. My blood ran cold. She's what? Check her new blog. It's called Surviving and Thriving, and it's all about her journey from victim to survivor. I found the blog and started reading. Sarah had written a series of posts about her abusive marriage to an unnamed husband who was controlling, manipulative, and prone to violent outbursts. She described herself as a woman who'd been trapped in a cycle of emotional abuse and had found the courage to leave through the support of a close friend who showed her what real love looked like. The posts were carefully written to avoid anything that could be proven false, but the implications were clear. She was painting herself as a victim and me as an abuser. "This is insane," I told Mara. I never laid a hand on her. I never even raised my voice to her until the day I caught her cheating. I know that. You know that. But Sarah's betting that people will be more sympathetic to a story about escaping abuse than they were to a story about cheating on a good husband. Is it working? Starting to. She's got a few hundred followers already, and some of the comments are supportive. People are saying things like, "I'm so proud of you for getting out," and "You're so brave for sharing your story." I scrolled through the comments, feeling sick. Sarah was responding to each supportive message with gratitude and hints about how hard it had been to break free from her toxic situation. "There's more," Mara said. She's scheduled to do a podcast interview next week about surviving emotional abuse, and she's been reaching out to some of our mutual friends, telling them she's ready to share the real truth about your marriage. Can she do this? Can she just lie about me publicly? Technically, she's not naming you directly, and she's being careful not to make any specific claims that could be proven false. It's all emotional manipulation and vague implications. I felt the familiar anger rising in my chest, but this time it was different. This wasn't just about Sarah cheating on me anymore. This was about her trying to destroy my reputation and my life to save her own. "What can we do?" "Well," Mara said slowly, "we could always remind people what really happened, and we could do it in a way that makes Sarah's new story look even more ridiculous." "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking it's time for the nuclear option." The nuclear option, as Mara called it, was a comprehensive exposé that would lay out everything, not just the affair, but Sarah's entire pattern of manipulation and lies. Mara had been holding back some of the more damaging evidence from the burner phone, waiting for the right moment to use it. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked. "Once we release this stuff, there's no taking it back. Sarah's reputation will be completely destroyed." I thought about the blog posts, about Sarah painting me as an abuser to cover up her own betrayal. I thought about the podcast interview where she'd probably cry and talk about how scared she'd been in our marriage. "She made the choice to escalate this," I said. "I'm just responding to her move." Mara spent the weekend putting together what she called the Sarah Files, a comprehensive website that included everything. The original timeline of the affair, the text messages from the burner phone, screenshots of Sarah's lies on social media, and now her new blog posts with detailed rebuttals. But the most damaging evidence was something Mara had been saving: video footage. "Remember how Sarah was always posting those Instagram stories from restaurants and bars?" Mara asked. "Well, some of those places have security cameras, and some of those cameras caught her with Julian and her other boyfriends. She'd managed to get footage from 3 different locations, showing Sarah with different men while she was posting about her happy marriage. The videos were grainy, but clear enough to identify faces and timestamps. How did you get these? I have friends in a lot of places. Let's just say that people who work in restaurants don't like cheaters any more than the rest of us. The website went live on Monday morning. Within hours, it was being shared across every social media platform. The evidence was so overwhelming and so well documented that even Sarah's supporters couldn't deny it. The blog posts about emotional abuse looked ridiculous in light of the text messages where Sarah bragged about manipulating me and laughed about my trust in her. The narrative about escaping a toxic marriage fell apart when confronted with video evidence of her carrying on multiple affairs while posting about how happy she was. But the real blow came when Mara released the audio recordings. "Recordings?" I asked when she told me about them. "From the burner phone. Sarah recorded some of her conversations with Julian and the other guys. I think she was getting off on the thrill of it, recording herself talking about you while you were in the next room. The recordings were devastating. In one, Sarah could be heard talking to Julian while I was apparently watching TV downstairs. She made fun of my job, my truck, my family, and my performance in bed. She talked about how easy it was to lie to me and how clueless I was about her affairs. In another recording, she was talking to her trainer while I was apparently working in the garage. She described me as boring and predictable and said she was only staying married to me until she could find something better. The most damaging recording was one where Sarah was talking to a friend about her long-term plans. She explained how she was planning to divorce me and take half of everything, including the house I'd renovated with my own hands. She talked about how she'd been documenting my anger issues to use against me in court, apparently referring to the normal frustration anyone would feel when their wife was constantly lying to them. The best part, Sarah said in the recording, is that Dave's so trusting, he'll never see it coming. By the time he figures out what's happening, I'll have everything documented and he'll look like the bad guy. When that recording went public, Sarah's reputation didn't just crumble, it was obliterated. The podcast interview was canceled. The blog was flooded with angry comments calling her a sociopath and worse. Her reputation management company dropped her as a client. Even Julian, who had been keeping a low profile, got dragged back into the mess when people realized he'd been a willing participant in Sarah's plan to destroy me. I was at work on Wednesday when my phone started buzzing with calls from reporters. Apparently, the story had been picked up by several news outlets as an example of how social media could be used to expose the truth about manipulative people. "Dave, this is incredible," Aaron called to tell me. "Sarah's story is everywhere. People are calling her the most hated woman on the internet." "I didn't want her to be hated," I said, and I meant it. "I just wanted people to know the truth." "Well, now they do. And Sarah's finding out what it feels like to be the target instead of the one doing the targeting." That evening, Sarah called me one last time. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Dave, please," she sobbed. "You've won, I get it, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. But please, you have to make this stop. I can't leave my apartment, I can't go to work, people are recognizing me on the street. I can't make it stop, Sarah. I'm not controlling what people do with the information. I just made sure they had access to the truth." "The recordings? How did you get the recordings?" "You made them yourself, on your burner phone. The phone you used to coordinate your affairs and plan my destruction." There was a long silence. "I never meant for any of this to happen." "You meant for all of it to happen. You just meant for it to happen to me instead of you. I know I hurt you, but this is ruining my life. Your life was ruined the moment you decided to cheat on me and then try to frame me as an abuser to cover it up. Everything that's happening now is just people reacting to who you really are. What am I supposed to do now?" I thought about that question for a long moment. "You're supposed to live with the consequences of your choices, just like you expected me to do." "Dave, Goodbye, Sarah." I hung up and turned off my phone. The next morning, I found out that Sarah had deleted all her social media accounts and taken down her blog. Julian had done the same. According to Mara, they'd both hired lawyers and were threatening to sue anyone who continued sharing the evidence. But the damage was done. "It's over," Mara told me when she called with the update. "Sarah's finished. Julian's finished. And everyone knows exactly what kind of people they are." "Good," I said, and I meant it. 2 days later, I was loading my truck with the last of my tools when Mrs. Drummond came over from next door. "Heard you're moving," she said. "Yeah, time for a fresh start." "Where are you headed?" "Colorado. Got a job offer from a construction company in Denver. Figure it's time to try something new." Mrs. Drummond nodded approvingly. "Good for you. You deserve better than what that woman put you through." "Thanks, Mrs. Drummond. And thanks for keeping me informed about everything that was going on. I know you didn't have to do that." She smiled. "Oh, honey, I was happy to help. Women like Sarah give the rest of us a bad name. Someone had to make sure the truth came out. As I drove away from the house for the last time, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Free. Sarah had tried to destroy me to save herself, and instead, she'd destroyed herself completely. Julian had thought he was winning by stealing another man's wife, and instead, he'd lost everything that mattered to him. And me? I was driving toward a new life in a new city, with a clean slate and a clear conscience. My phone buzzed with a text from Mara. "Heard about Colorado. Good for you. And Dave? Thanks for letting me help. Taking down people like Sarah is what I live for." I smiled and kept driving west, toward the mountains and whatever came next. Sarah had tried to make me the villain in her story. Instead, she'd made herself the cautionary tale that people would talk about for years to come. And that was exactly what she deserved.